Welcome, everyone. This is the first recording for International Social Work course, and we will be looking on course design. So, to make sure you are successful, no matter where you're taking this course, asynchronously or synchronously, we will be able to complete it together. My name is Sash Kondrashov, and I will be guiding you through this course. We will have usually weekly meetings when the course is in session. Otherwise, you can always check course material online, and my website is available at the bottom of the slide. So when you look for each module, which you will have access on your course learning management system, you will notice that some of them will have unit or module specific learning objectives. They will be based on the material of the module. Keep always in mind about the course learning objectives, which are in your syllabus, to make sure how everything what you do here is impacted your learning, your personal journey in international social work. So see here we do have a couple of learning objectives. So I'm hopeful that at the end of this unit, you will be able to identify frameworks that are used in designing international social work course. You will appreciate the use of universal design principles in doing this course design. You will reflect on these learning objectives and be able to summarize course assignments specific to your course and create individual learning plan and course schedule to be successful in learning international social work. As you notice, for each module, there will be a number of learning activities. And if there is a recording, you can follow it. If not, then just click on each slide and see what the activity look like. It will either ask you to look at the link and provide you with some information which is related to course learning objectives that you can find after reading material. It sometimes will ask you to think about questions, how you can reflect. Always when you read any material from each slide, connect it to the learning objectives. That will be your critical exercise for every activity. When you read something, always connect how this will help me in my future international social practice. And if you will have any questions about course activities, we can always have live discussions. That's why we do have weekly web conferences, just to make sure that you are learning and absorbing material. And if you have any questions, we can always have that discussion. So look at the activity, each of them, and spend some time to go through each activity. So I will go with you. So for example, the first one, if you think about international social work, try to think about what your role will be there. As you're a volunteer, you have done maybe some internship in the past, maybe you plan to do your practicum social work in international setting, or maybe you want to do some community service or community-based learning. As you notice, there is many ways how you can learn about international social work, or you already have. As before taking this class, you might have a lot of experiences, which brings you to social work international fields of practice. And you can continue building those examples as a learning, because learning through serving is one of the way how we can learn about international social work. Or in the future, you might have also paid position where you will be doing international social work. No matter which experiences you will choose to, there will be certain values, and that's where they will not change. If you study Canadian social work values, you know that right to self-determination, which protects dignity and worth of every person, service to humanity, social justice promotion, uh, competence, confidentiality, and integrity of professional practice. No matter what type of experience you have, will be always with you. So keep making sure that no matter what type you plan to engage in your future with international social work, keep those values in mind because they will guide your actions and build your competence and connections with different cultures, people, places. So keep learning, and that's where, if you want to do more, you can read the book Through Learning Through Serving by Crass, Collier, and Reitener. Another way how we will be doing this learning together, we will have a number of opportunities. You definitely will have some assignments where you can share your knowledge with other students. I will be able to see how you're learning in terms of are you mastering course objective? Do you know how to find materials related to your selected concepts? Or can you find some passion in area of social work by reading memoirs, finding organization, or doing things together through weekly discussion? You can have multiple ways of engaging in the course where you can do reflection with academic content, and at the same time you can continue doing service in the community. So as you can see, learning through serving still works, and learning through doing, learning by being part of our class, learning by sharing your knowledge, by responding to others, by connecting with your teacher and connecting with your content. It's important for your success in international social workers. I always encourage you to read. There's a great article which was written by Claire Fleet, and I supported her writing this article in terms of universal design on university campuses. I highly encourage you to think about class which you take as inclusive. We have wider diversity in our class from people coming from different walks of life, different experience, and we need to value them and we need to be uh, supportive in everyone's learning journey. It's a challenging piece, and we will succeed how we support each other in this part of learning. So I encourage you to read this article. Think about what we can do in our course to make it universally designed, in addition to lectures, seminars, materials, activities, which you can find on your course learning management system. So check some time, read this article, find it online, and expand your knowledge on universal design, what university campuses, and even in your place of work, how it's accessible to people, how services are available, adequate. So think about this universal design in everything what you do, in everything where you participate, what you can do to make learning, teaching, sharing, caring more universally available, accessible. So enjoy this article and then think about what can you do in your work, in international social work, in Canada and around the world. This is some of the research which I try to summarize from different articles on universal design, because there is some principle which guide us how we make things accessible, available for different groups. So some of them are universal design for instruction principles, which are based on 7 principle of universal design, where equitable use, flexibility, perceptual information, tolerance for error, physical effort, size and space for approach and use are critical pieces of learning and teaching for all of us. And the same when we think about UDI instructions, that community of learners we will build together asynchronously and synchronously will help us to move through this course. It's the same as instructional climate. So think what you can do to promote universal design for yourself and for others in this course in terms of those principles of universal design for learning, where we have multiple means of representation. You can choose any memoir you want to analyze organization because it's your journey, it's your course, and that's where the most important to be successful in that learning, that where you have multiple means of expression, you will be able to share your posts online on discussion, you will put it in Dropbox for grading, you will be able to participate in live meetings if you are able. And the same way as engagement with others, you can connect with other members of the class as you go through your learning. It will be opportunity for us to practice universal design remember those values, and thinking for ourselves how we can implement it in our work, in our future work, in international social work practice and local. At the same way, it's universal. So enjoy learning. See if you want to connect with those articles. They are listed at the end of the presentation, so you can always look for the material. Always take some time to reflect after every slide you watch. It's a good practice if you look through, put yourself some questions, put some notes in your reflective journal if you do one. It will help you to remember what you've learned and how you are building your knowledge. So get this as a good practice for the future. What I do in this course, I'm trying to make it hybrid and flexible. One of the joy of teaching international social work, I've been able to teach it both in Ukraine and in Canada in different universities and different programs. So the course is available as a 12-week course, as a 7-week course, as a 6-week course, as a block course, as a one-term course, as a week-long course. There is many ways how to make it depending on the audience, because it can be an undergraduate students, graduate students, it can be students who are not social workers, who is just learning social development. We still have lots of component to learn about international, global community, international practice, and the role of social work. So try to see what we can do to make this course even more flexible, meaning accessible, available to people, uh, with no learning deficit. If you can come to class, great. If you cannot, also great. It's what hybrid flexible course design mean. I'm trying to do it in all the courses I teach, so I encourage you read the book by Betty. There is links here, and think about for yourself in your future how you want to see your courses be developed and what hybrid flexible mean to you and how we can make it more, again, universal for everyone. We know each of us on different learning journey, and I always hide how the same happen internationally. Each country has its own level of development, and we need to be mindful that for some places, technology creates a strong digital divide. Even in Canada, it's a huge concern. People having access and not having access to technology. We've seen it in pandemic, and we will see it in the future if we don't take action to ensure that equitable access for technology is available and internet is part of the human interaction in a way that everyone has access to it and can choose when and where to use it. So we have some people who like technology and who do it, others who are more pragmatist, some are conservative in a way that we need to see how technology works, and some are very skeptics, no ways that social work can be taught online. We know if you're taking this course in online delivery, you know it can happen. And we have many successful stories who are taking classes online. So asynchronously work, it's simply harder. What it means, you need to put more energy in terms of self-directedness, independence, motivation, where you will not have an instructor who is in class and who will be able to provide you with 3-hour lectures every week. It's changing. We are now moving into more remote blended learning, and we've seen those changes as we develop our uh, program. So, what I'm hoping, if you look on this technology adoption, the same has happened with international adoption. How you move to different countries, you need to know for more how local people will be accessing learning and teaching, how you can be successful in a community where you are um, not knowing to people, how you can build that relationship when you do international work, and being careful of how you present yourself and your values and your position, because we know that there is damage can be done and harm to people who are coming from one place to another. And that's what we will be emphasizing in next module, how to do the work ethically and appropriately if you're engaging in international social work practice. So be flexible, in this case, hybrid flexible as we learn, and we will keep learning as we go through each slide. So remember those are values, and values are in everything what you do. As I highlighted before, social work values, which will guide you in every action in your professional career. They are your compass for making sure that you make decisions in a way that are consistent with values, and that will be very helpful. The same when you design course in hybrid flexible, you're looking on what is learner choice, what is equivalency, reusability, and acceptability, how we make things available. I post now most material online to make sure that anybody in the world can take this class, how this will ensure our intellectual property. That's one of the concerns and aspects of how people acknowledge and use sources. Important, always acknowledge sources where you got the information. Put links, put sources originally. It will help to find more material on that topic. And that's acknowledgement, which is critical as you've learned. And I do hope when we do acknowledgement, it's always important to acknowledge the territory. So when I'm doing recording today, it's done on Secwepemc Nation in Kamloops, British Columbia. So think about indigenous people who live on this land and were practicing for many generations, years, and have experienced international social work, which was done harmfully in a way that when we think about colonization and relationship that was not done using social work values, and how we can now living in a different time, in different place around the world where you listen to this lecture, how you can engage with people, with indigenous people and settlers on how to move forward in the land where they are. Will be our learning. This will be learning for all international communities. We still see a lot of wars happen around the world because of the land. Connection, acknowledgement, land, and its major resource to human growth and development. How it can be done? Will be our work. Will be our international work, where you will play a role of making sure that those fundamental values in your field, in social work, will be critical in our practice. So keep learning, keep seeing your values. Think about for yourself what are the guiding values, in addition to professional, which are the most important piece of learning which you get in social work profession. In addition, how those values you can put into practice. Something which I've learned by doing my PhD in social work is how to teach online. And there is a number of skills and qualities which are critical for success for both instructor and teacher. And if you have those qualities, you will have easier time to learn in online learning environment and be successful in it, because we do need to have cognitive, social, and teaching presence, which is community of inquiry model, but we also need to have professional and technical presence as we navigate technology and ethics in a way how we practice. So see if you need any supports. I've listed here some of the supports which are critical for student success and critical for instructor success, which I use and uh, helping me to design and develop all those courses and ensure that we can communicate through the technology very well and through your course learning management system. So think about those who support you. Thank them. Always important that they're available. If they're not available, demand that they will become available, because they are critical for success. And that's something which need to be done in every university in Canada and beyond if you want to have successful learning environment and effective learning in social work distance education. So if you want to read my PhD study, you can always go and spend some time at University of Manitoba Library, and you will be able to find out what other things social work distance educators shared, what are critical to success in creating effective learning environment. So keep learning, find your glider, and make sure we will have the successful learning and journey in this course. Very important activity which I do for every class, and I want all my students to be aware. As we come from different location and we occupy different position in society. When you think about location, it's who you are. It's characteristics that you have, which are visible and invisible, sometimes voiced or unvoiced. And you can think about this when you reflect on the gender, gender identity, expression, geography, where you're born, where you live right now, your postal code, whether you have experience of public assistance, how you connected to your residence, whether you own or rent, what is your social color, how racialization impact your life, what's your religion, what's your connection to religion, the same as residential school and internment experiences, and whether you have refugee or any type of displacement. All of those graces, when you look on affiliation, ancestry, addiction, age, ability, agility, alignment, appearance, assisted technology, caregiving, community, creed, and you go further, and I built that acronym thanks to my students over the last 5 years when I was reading Burnham article on original development of social graces, visible and invisible. And we realize our location will also create a position in society where you are. What is valued in your society? What type of family structure is valued? What is valued in terms of social media access? What is economy? What is class situation? And that's where you will start position connecting to powers. That's where it's important to learn about the concept of oppression, privilege, and your role. Because you will have one or another or both based on your location and based how society see your position. And that's where the challenge of future work, because whenever you travel internationally, your location will change, so your geography will change. And your position might be changed in society depending where you're going and depending on your location. So that's a very important to reflect in critically in everything what you do and how you do it. How your position and your location impact your actions, what type of awareness you have about your location and your position, because privilege usually is unseen. People do not see that they have privilege. That's something which is unearned. If you start seeing this, that's a great step forward to become an awareness, and then how you use it, that will be your action. Think about this as awareness, analysis, and action framework for each of those locations, because in different contexts, they will represent as a sign of privilege or a sign of oppression. And that happens the same with our clients when we work. Some of those things will be seen in our society as a privilege, and sometimes it's unseen privilege or unvoiced or invisible, or the same as in oppression. It can be unseen, invisible, and unvoiced. So think about for each characteristics where it fit in those quadrants, and for yourself what you can do to uh, challenge oppressions and also confront privileges, because both of them in excess, meaning when you are having privilege, you might not be able to share it. If you are oppressed, you might not be able to act and find supports, because that's where the challenge of oppression and why we need to confront privilege, to share resources, to promote social justice and service to humanity. So values again come and help us to see what are those important parts of our identities and who we are. We are human with different parts of what makes us human. How we live together, that's where that position comes of a social, and what we can value and how we can change things to make them more available and accessible. So think about the social graces, read the article, reflect, spend some time. Every class, I want you to go back to this slide and think about what you read. What will happen if you read if you have a different location, if you have a different position in society, if your English was, for example, not your first language, if your biological status was different, in terms of your sex, if you have siblings, if you don't have siblings, if your connections in your culture, in your citizenship and experience with criminalization, all of those can impact of how you will see and read the articles which are part of this course and any other course. So how we do it, we reflect and gain through values and trying to understand what will be the most critical for us to learn for our future practice, which is consistent with values. Take some time and reflect. This is where I usually spend lots of time in class with my students of thinking about root causes of poverty, of social concern, of homelessness. We choose a concern, we try to think about what some of the root causes of why we do have the challenges which we have experienced. And it's a good exercise to do for yourself if you go and try to think about what causes the challenges. And what we've come down when we go deeper and deeper and deeper of those causes, there is three type of experience which can happen on individual, cultural, and structural level, which resulted in those type of privileges and oppressions. Mostly, as you will see, they are connected to trauma, indifference, and greed. That can be explained why in some countries people are dying from malnutrition, while others have opportunity to share the food. That can be seen as an example of a difference and can be seen as an example of greed at the same time. And in most cases, it creates a trauma experience for uh, groups who are uh, needing that for survival. If we can think about this as child soldiers or any other concerns in the world, we can start looking on those trauma, greed, and indifference causes, root causes of major concerns around the world, and what we can do to uh, challenge those root causes. What can we do to change things and to make things different? So one of the way how to work through indifference is to become caring person. When we are caring, it's hard to be indifferent when the care comes. You need to balance it still to make sure that this is appropriate care, adequate care, accessible care. And the same happen with share. That's how we deal with challenge of greed. If you have lots of resources we can share, they have opportunity to be shared with others. So people will have supports available and accessible to them. And trauma law, that's where the more critical piece of why we are doing the work we do and how we do again critical love, critical care, and critical share. How we ensure that what we do in our social practice internationally and locally is connected to who we are. And maybe we'll find a new balance. We'll find new normal. We find a new way where we can have that love, care, share triangle more prominent and supported by different groups of people. And that's where we will have individual hope and cultural hope and structural hope and critical hope to make things different. That's why we study social work too. And hopefully that's where we will see things in the future, which are more focused on that triangle instead of trauma, greed, indifference. But we need to be aware about those challenges because they are experienced by many people around the world and in Canada. So keep learning, keep remembering root causes. Try to think for yourself every time what's the root cause of any problem you experience and think what may be other factors. Let me know. We can always expand the triangle. I've spent a lot of time with students to do this exercise in class. Online it's harder, but for yourself you can always reflect and send me an email, share some of your ideas. What are the root causes? And we can have a discussion in class during the live sessions. So keep learning. I always ask everyone to think again about your location and position and why critical consciousness development and service learning of what is your allocation and what is visible characteristics you will bring to your international social work because this will impact of how you will be seen by others, how other societies, cultures, neighborhoods will see you based on who you are, based on your location and based on your position. So spend some time again with social justice and service learning and realize of how what type of critical consciousness development, you want to develop that social justice because we start seeing emerging caring uh, as a move from charity. Social work has a very a movement, if you look on a history in Canada, particularly started with charity movement, was providing people with some food and uh, doing the charity work, as you've seen with give back to community, do for others. It's a volunteering. I get back more than I give. Reciprocity in service. Everyone is the same, or everyone has differences or diversities. Um, when we think about emergent care, we start teaching, we start making sure that people can do things on their own. It's more compassion and empathetic, do for, but are in relationship with others. So instead of do for others, you start thinking about with others. It's a growth in your professional development. And some students move from charity to caring more faster, others stay on charity level when they think about social justice. And we need to do a little bit more work on getting through charity model of charity lens to social work to caring, and then social justice when we think about anti-oppressive, anti-privilege work, where you will think about more systematic issues, more macro challenges which impact society. And that's where you move from individual to cultural and structural level of change, from individual, cultural to structural understanding of oppression, from individual to cultural or groups to then structural recognition of privilege and possibility of change. So that's where you start seeing interconnectedness, diversity within inclusiveness, because that gives you that broader view which structural perspective does, where you can see both individual and environment and how that environment impacts an individual in a structural way. So keep learning, seeing that development of critical consciousness, and think again from your position and location, because each of us will have those different. If we think about race, if we think about gender, if we think about other graces which we have. So I encourage you to look through this table, think for yourself how we can move, what can help facilitate us move from charity to caring and social justice with anti-oppressive and anti-privileged lands. It takes time, and for many people, this learning takes quite many years. And hopefully, we will start seeing those analysis of root causes of systematic change, of how it will affect all people, because we start doing this by increasing resources and treating people fairly and increase their opportunities, but we need to move forward because sometimes charity and caring stops us from seeing social justice lens, because it's also better than do nothing, but it's not that helpful if we are focusing only on charity and caring instead of going into social justice. So see those way as you progress in your development, if you're growing in your analysis and action and awareness. I always show this video, which actually not a video, it's a cartoon, which my social policy teacher showed to me in Ukraine when I took the course of understanding that each of us see justice in a different way. So the same as you've seen before in three lenses of care, charity, caring, and social justice, we really need to be mindful about vulnerability, about those social graces, because this is where the world is unjust and we need to do action. This is where it comes from the people with having the most vulnerabilities, how we can support uh, everyone in their journey and see that the world is unjust. Because for some people, it's wonderful. The world is just. This is where social workers come and recognize, and that's where it becomes supports and strengths, and that's where there is opportunities to make change. Because otherwise, if we look on the world is just picture, that's where we start recognizing, from that perspective, the world is very different than from perspective there is no justice in the world. And how we can change this, this is where our future, there is more other cartoons you can look online and you can see and bring them to our discussion on. I really enjoy always when students share cartoons, arts, and other things. When they build their knowledge and location, you can use non-academic resources the same way as you enhance your academic knowledge, because again, there is very critical to know academic resources, and then you can find some non-academic which might be very helpful to demonstrate those academic knowledge in a more visual, artistic, creative way. So be okay with this piece if you want to share as part of your concept post. So once you look at your course outline, and depending where you're taking the courses will be different. Here I use one of the course outlines description in the International Social Work course. Look at yours, find what you will be learning through your program in this course, because each International Social Work has a little bit different lenses. I will try to cover most every single aspect of International Social Work practice, that no matter where you've taken this course, you will be successful in meeting course learning objectives. So check it, see how you will do it, and look through your course outline the same with learning objectives. They will be also specific to your program where you take in this course. And at the same time, they will be very general in a way how international social work is seen globally. So I use some of them here. Check in your course outline what will be for your course particularly, and we will focus. However, some of them will overlap from the one you've seen here. The same with this course schedules. There will be variation depending if your course is 12 weeks course, is a 7-week course, is it a 5-week course or 6-week course. Usually minimum I have it as 6, as first module is just an introduction. Most of the time the 12-week module means that we have module 8 and 9 presentations for memoirs, and module 10 and 11 it's a presentation on organizations of, and then we have a big feast at the end of the class of module 12. So that's how it's usually done, but there are 6 critical modules which will ensure that you have a very good knowledge. I put some of the key readings which usually stays. I change some readings every offering. It's a course to bring some perspective. Sometimes we use assignments which allow us to see other readings. Sometimes we use concepts where we try to build a different understanding of the critical knowledge which you can get from the course. So check your course outline, course schedule, and see what works in your course. And we'll have always weekly discussions to make it happen. The same happen with assignments. It will be specific for your course of the time, how long we will need to work. But typically we do have 2 major assignments. One is related to memoir organization portfolio, where we look for organization where you can practice international social work, finding some resources, and looking for memoir, which helps you to actually define your organization, and class project, which has different components, and each course has a different focus based on your program requirements. So that's usually how they are divided, but there is variation. So check your course assignments in your class. And this is a model which I usually show to every student in all my classes. I primarily teach policy, but this model is used for every type of practice and service delivery, because we want to make things available, accessible, affordable, accountable, appropriate, acceptable, approachable, accurate, appreciative, adequate, and ideally awesome for where we work. No matter if we teach the course, we do work in a criminal justice system, we work with mental health, uh, we are trying to do work in community, we are working in the field of child welfare, in field of homelessness, connecting people to resources in international organizations, in policy development, in research, in other capacities which we do. We need to think about how to make things more available, accessible, affordable, and other A's. So think about those words, think about for yourself which one you want to focus. Every student in class focus on one of those words as they want to make things more A to them, and keep that passion for where you will be working on how to make things accessible. For me, for example, I use accessibility of education as my goal and lifelong journey. I want to make things that courses and learning is accessible to every student. I was very grateful that I got my education in Ukraine, from Canadian project, which allow us to make things, to see social work from a different lens, from a different country, and allows education become accessible and available in global. So for me, this is a passion, and I like this course for that reason, particularly because it helps me to remember my journey and why international social work is so critical for success for many people. Without that work, I haven't had a chance to be even able today to share that lecture and to do this type of class. So think about how impactful international social work can be, and you can make that impact in your future when you start working in that particular field or continue working, because some of you already have lots of experience and maybe you already done a lot of international social work and now you can share this experience with us in class. We'll keep learning, we'll make it an A model of social services and a model of learning. What I want to come to the end of the lecture, I want you always to think about definition of each term. One is a social work. Social work is a practice-based profession based on the International Association of School of Social Work. Um, I'm a life member of that organization, and it's an academic discipline that promotes social change and development. It's a social cohesion and empowerment and liberation of people. It's principles of social justice, those which guide us, human rights, collective responsibility, respect for diversities. They are central. And we need to know the series of social work, social sciences, humanities, indigenous knowledges, and social work engagement with people and structures to address those challenges, to enhance well-being. And that definition can be changed, can be modified into make it more strong on national and regional levels. So this is like a basic way to see it. So take that time, reflect on the definition. What do you think is social work for yourself? Reflect, think about it, write your definition, share on your discussion board, talk with your colleagues, have a discussion. What is social work? How do you see international social work? All of those things we'll keep exploring in the next lecture. This is one of the from United States, from National Association of Social Work, uh, description of social work of what it means. Um, some finds another slide I found online, and you can see the reference more unknown resource, which we'll talk about what social work means. Think about for yourself how you define it. What is your meaning of social work? Make your poem. Make social work yours, and that's a very important thing to do. So enjoy that learning and find your home. Where is the home? It's a critical question for each of us. Where we are born, what is our ancestry, where on this land we can find connection. We can find connection to the land, to that indigenous connection which we have somewhere on this earth. So think about this. Where is home for you? What does the home mean? How you define home? It's another very interesting concept. It's changing. And for myself as an immigrant and settler in Canada, I'm learning a lot about what it's mean to have a new home from the place where I born. What it means to be born in the place where your parents move. How this affects who you are. What's about your parents? What's about grandparents and great grandparents? How far you can go in your ancestry to find out who you are in terms of your connections and belonging, your indigenous connections. And if you are an indigenous person, think about the connection to the land which you have and maintain your ancestors for generation protecting this land. It's a huge privilege to be able to connect and live on the land and remembering that connection from long, long time ago for many, many generations. That's something which we can see less and less because there is less indigenous people in the world, and we need to be very careful on how we create that connection because connection to the land is very important in each of our journey, how it will be protected and how the knowledge can be shared from generation by generation for many, many, many years. We can keep going and growing and learning what is home to us. So take some time, reflect. Where is home? What is home? How do you protect home? What's your role on the land? What can you do to protect the land for future generation? What do you make it sustainable? How you can ensure that this land will last for next 14,000 years as we think about Canada and land in Canada and challenges with the land, how we want to see they are resolved. So think about this and take this time to reflect when you watch the TED Talk. I always give you an article to read every time, and I want you to read some of the articles just to get research what can be done on international social work and how it's taught in different classes in different programs that's based in the United States. Survey, you can see what is international perspective of social work, how they incorporate in course material, what can you learn from this, and it's just recently published to make this more interesting and accessible to discuss how it's done. What can you do? What can we do to make it happen in a more accessible, available, adequate way? And the second one, which I also ask you to read, there is lots of dilemmas of international social work and how we can work through those dilemmas. We'll have a full lecture on ethics, so I want you to start thinking about ethics and dilemmas from the first class when we discuss values, as we will keep doing more of those dialogical discussions, cross-cultural practice and development practitioner role, what does mean indigenisation and universalism, and how challenges like imperialism affected the development of social work and international social work specifically. So read the article by Gray, and again, if you have questions, we can discuss them through our part of live discussion. And have questions. Think about what is yours. How you define it. What's your definition of the concept? Select some concept for your study, because you will be asked to do some concept reflections in terms of defining it, finding resources, and connecting it to the course objective. So think about it. What definition you want to use and how you want to use it. And at the end of each lecture, if I have some of the questions, use them as your guide in others. Just go back. Think about what I have done in the last 1 hour, what I have listened, what I have found, what is my knowledge, what I've gained, how that knowledge will be helpful for my future practice. Ask those questions. They are general, but they are applicable for every lecture. If there is a specific question, go through this and try to answer them for yourself. Can you make a personal profile of social graces, what you've learned here? Can you spend this time? How you define social justice in international social practice? So think about those answers to the question, and you can share them online in our discussion. If you have desire to share, we will have that opportunity. So take well learning and look through the reference. I hope you enjoy the lecture, and we will keep our learning even if you don't have lecture, because I might not do it for every week or class. We will have live discussion. So enjoy learning, keep sharing your knowledge, and build your skills as you cover material in the course. Have a good day, and thank you.